And I found it really weird when I was BDR. I was like, why aren't we cold calling? Like, I'm a salesperson. My whole thing is like, I'm good at talking to people. Like, why aren't we doing this more? And I was really passionate to be like, I really want cold calling to come back. And I want to implement that in the team. People did not like that. But now like 33% of our meetings are coming from that channel.
Hey everyone, Matt Curl here with Apollo, and welcome to Rewiring Growth, a series where we pull back the curtain on how today's most promising startups are going to market in the age of AI. In this episode, I spoke with Grace Feeney, the Senior Manager of Sales Development and Operations at Smartling, and boy did she have some insights. We drove into her contrarian take on cold calling, her tech stack consolidation strategy, and why solving problems at 10 p.m. became her superpower. This show is brought to you by Apollo.io, the end-to-end AI sales platform built to help modern sales teams grow. Grace holds a role that's very rare in business. She runs both the sales development teams and the operations and Salesforce teams that support them. Let's dive into how she got there.
For me, being a BDR, I was quite good at being like, okay, like what's the most efficient way of me doing my job? I was quite good at like Salesforce and being able to like understand the different fields and like filters I would need to kind of like sneakily get the good accounts that were being swept that week. And like I found like learning the tech stack and kind of like problem solving and coming up with like, my friends would laugh at me that like I manage operations personally because I'm like, right, I'm like not really into like social media or like technology as like I'm not very good at like posting online or something, they would say to me. But I'm like, but operations, it's like problem solving. And I'm very good at being efficient and making things. I'm trying to like, how can I do things the most, but with the least amount of time? And I think business development is such a good department and showcase of doing that. And how I ended up managing like operations was because I started to manage so much more tech stack than any other leader because BDR do that. And then we were like, hey, the AEs need to prospect. They also need all this technology. They also need to be set up on workflows. So that became a natural progression. You know, trying to figure things out myself. I was working hand in hand with RevOps. And then over time, like they needed like leadership because there was no direction of like things getting done. There was no like, for me anyways, like there was no vision of what was going on where I could see a vision of like how we were going to be able to automate things, how much AI was going to like take over the mundane grunt work that I used to do at 10 p.m. at night instead of getting ready for bed. And I was just like, it was just such a natural coupling. And it's been like, honestly, like the most rewarding journey managing both departments over the last year.
I think you are so right. And I promise you, your personality type and those characteristics are actually very rare. I love what you said. Like, it's because you're actually in the day-to-day with the teams and you know what's possible. And I think you feel the pain in a different way. And I think sometimes RevOps teams in particular can get stuck in, you know, I need to do this thing. And it's like, well, you can do this thing. Just go to that ninth screen, go to that 10th platform, go do that thing. And I think what you have a really keen sense of, because you're both leading the teams and the operations, is, oh my gosh, like I need to make this simple and easy, and I want to consolidate this and I want to make this make sense and ultimately get the outcome I'm looking for. And I think it's a lot of that curiosity, that desire to dig. And I think a big kudos on that vision. I think that without that central vision, it's so hard to progress an org forward. And so I love that you're doing that. And one thing you had talked about, you know, in previous articles or other things is like the centralization and sort of getting that tech stack down. You know, I sort of think about panes of glass where maybe an SDR and AE is in 7 or 8 different platforms or 7 or 8 different screens to do their job. And it sounds like you've undergone some technological transformation, which is really amazing. And you've started to narrow that down. Walk me through that journey, why you even did that. Like, where's that conviction come from? I think I know, but where's that conviction and that vision coming from? And what has been the result of simplifying your tech stack down and reducing the number of tools that your team's having to operate in?
Yeah. So like that kind of journey started like 3-ish more years ago. I was back in Ireland and I had just become the manager of our business development department. But we also like had new leadership coming in. So like anyone knows, if you've been in BDR land, you know, a great signal to reach out to someone is like, oh, there's a new hire like over a department that you prospect into. You should get a meeting with that person so they think of something new. That is true. I have lived it. They come in and they evaluate everything and what you're doing and like how we're spending our money. And I was really, really new. I cannot explain how new I was to people like leadership and first time management. Made all the mistakes, but that's the only way you're going to learn it. And like, I honestly look back on that time and it was like, it was hard, but like it shaped the person I am today. And I'm actually really proud of that. And for me, what happened is we had all this tech stack that was like broken and weren't integrated into the same places. So like I generally just had to like trying to teach my CEO that like you have to look at one platform for email, but then you're also going to have to look here like for like notes for meetings, and then you have to look here for something else. I view Smartling's money like my money, if that makes sense. Like I take the budget like very seriously, and I'm like, I'm spending X amount for a platform that I'm like, it's broken. Like it doesn't integrate into my Salesforce. Like whatever email wasn't working, it wasn't sending correctly. So it started just like fire, where I was like, I nearly felt like I was like, I'm going to solve my own problems. Like I'm going to take this on. And I started evaluating my tech stack. And to be honest, it was kind of like, well, who's reliable and who doesn't like break all the time? Who doesn't make me as angry? And then really the other really surprising thing to me in this journey was I just accepted tech stacks when I was kind of a BDR to be like, oh, this is what this one does. And this one, this does. And this is what this does. But if you actually take a minute, a lot of these platforms have so many different features that are going unused by you. There's like a stat out there that's like 20%, only 20% of features are ever being used by a team, by a certain tech stack. There's so much not like being done. And basically I was using an email platform. I had a lot of challenges with it. And I was like honestly so stressed. I was like staying up all night being like, how am I going to solve this problem? And I went on Apollo's website and I saw that, oh wait, they have a sequencer? I never saw that. Yeah, the feature was right there. But if you're not looking for it, you're not going to see it. The other day, I didn't even know there was a basement in my elevator option on the menu until someone selected that C button for car park. And I was like, I've never gone to the car park because I don't have a car. I was like, I didn't even see that. I've been living in this building for a year. But you don't see anything until like you're really looking for it. And then I kind of was like, okay, wait, this could actually solve some of my problems. Then this other challenge happened. I'm sorry to keep ranting, but I'm just like so passionate right now. Is this other thing happened where for me, my BDR team, and I called a lot when I worked in Indeed, like a lot, and I loved it. I think you could say that's a rare personality type as well. Like I loved talking to people all day. It's like one of the reasons I love my job right now. Smartling, we weren't cold calling. And I found it really weird when I was BDR. I was like, why aren't we cold calling? Like I'm a salesperson. My whole thing is like, I'm good at talking to people. Like, why aren't we doing this more? It was very administrative. Email was really working at the time. And then there was like this whole thing, like email's not working anymore. What are we doing? And I was really passionate to be like, I really want cold calling to come back. And I want to implement that in the team. People did not like that. They did not like that change. And it has been a journey. But now like 33% of our meetings are coming from that channel. And my reps have like undergone this like massive change, and of like seeing them, how they deal with objections now, how much more resilient they are, how much more confident they are speaking on calls, how much more knowledgeable they are on the product. Like I'm just like comes from that daily grind of cold calling. And I'm not passionate about like making 5 million dials a day. We focus like on conversations as a KPI, but just the kind of consolidating all the tech stack, making all these changes. It was kind of like there was so many changes of like, there was a kind of a problem with like, do we have the right people? Do we have the right process of how to go to market? Do we have the right technology to do it? And like a year or two ago, it was like a resounding no. But now I feel like extremely confident in how we're doing things. And yes, there's areas to improve, but like, you know, you can like see a North Star. I can see the vision and I'm like, I know where I'm going. And I have like a very good people, process, technology to get me there.
There's like so much good in what you said. I'm gonna compartmentalize it, and I want to like ask some follow-up questions, but like some really powerful nuggets in what you said. I think one was just by doing cold calling, y'all are doing like 33% more meetings. And I think that it's not just the cold calling that you hit on. I think this comes from you. I want to come back to like the RevOps thing. It comes from you running both. I think that's like a very big superpower, and it is rare. You're also talking about when you're on the phone and you're getting the question live, you're not hiding behind a doc. You're not hiding behind looking up the answer. It's like you are on the call with the customer, and that forces the expertise. And absolutely agree with you. It's a hard role to cold call, to get hung up on, to learn that discipline. And it's not just the discipline of how to dial. It's the discipline of, I need to know my product. I need to know how to answer this customer. I need to sound good on the phone. I need to know my stuff and know my craft. I think there's a lot in there you talked about, which is like incredible. Another theme you hit on was super interesting, is about the, you know, sort of the RevOps space. And when you started to work with the RevOps team, you talked about there were tools that were being underused. And I think that an often, like a very common thing I see with RevOps teams is they will look, does this tool integrate with Salesforce? And that's the criteria. Can I get this tool to work with Salesforce? And a joke I always give like the RevOps teams I work with is, do you think these tools that you're buying all had a council and sat together and talked about how they're going to integrate with each other? No, they all just talked about how to integrate with Salesforce. And I think you hit on that, which is the lived experience of the BDR or the sales team is not that, that's great integrated with Salesforce, but this doesn't work in a consolidated workflow. These tools don't work well together. And I think that reminded me of the story you were talking about with your CEO of, actually, you need to go here for this and here for this and here for this and here for this. And that's great. They all theoretically integrate with Salesforce, but the combined experience, when you hold both sides, you start to see the pain that occurs on both sides. And I think you make smarter decisions. I know you all are like a super user of Apollo and use Apollo for a lot of different things. How do you see the tech stack evolving? Maybe not even just with Apollo, but sort of taking that theme of you've clearly gone towards consolidation and you're seeing a lot of value of less surface for your teams and they can be in a single tool for their jobs that they need to do and the tasks they need to manage. Where do you think this goes, with AI and other things in the next 2-3 years? How do you see that tech stack evolving? And I love that you've got both the operator perspective in terms of the teams that are actually doing the work, plus the teams that are building the tech stack behind it. And I think that's rare. But where do you see this going? 3-4 years away, how do you see this advancing?
I work with business development now, obviously managing them, the sales, AEs. I work very heavily with marketing, with demand gen. Like we have obviously a lot of marketing operations. We need to instill all of that. But now like a whole thing in the last year really has been like working with our customer success department. How much like if there's manual process, like how can we automate that? Like how can we use this data to understand like, okay, what's churn? Why is things churning? What's our churn strategy to reduce that? Like, but also for me, it's like using that data to be like, okay, a new person has come on. The example I'll give is like, there's a lot of like new like director of AI or whatever. Like this new person has come in and is actually now taking over like the localization for the business, right? For our customers. A lot of these like people have these new titles that we were never targeting before. Everyone talks about like AI, it's going to take our jobs. I'm like, and I know everyone talks about like, oh, you're not going to get replaced by AI. You need to learn to use AI and you won't get replaced. But I'm just like, but for me, I'm just like, it's this whole thing of like, there's just always going to be another new job that like, do you know what I mean? Like when I was in college, I wasn't thinking about this was going to be my job. I had no idea like what was out there. Like there was like this, so like it's just like the roles are constantly evolving. But for me, working with customer success, they like work on a totally different platform. And yes, things sync to Salesforce, but it's not like unified in with like Apollo. It's not easily like way for me to like create like, okay, hey, this new people are actually joining our customer accounts, being engaged with us. Okay, how are we going to go find lookalikes to those people, lookalike companies? If I was to kind of say where I think it's going, I'm like a platform that like all go-to-market people can work from. And that is customer success. Like, can we understand like what customers are saying about us in a positive way, in a negative way, to educate my BDRs? Like my BDRs have no idea really what's going down the line with customers, educating my recs, but also using that information of like how we can improve our messaging, how we can make sure we're going after the right people so that there isn't churn, that like who we onboarded was the right fit and that we're growing with that customer. And then another thing, just like a personal thing, is like I deal with so many dupes in Salesforce and so many dupes contacts and dupes accounts and all this stuff. I would just love like a magic wand where I can just like tell a chatbot, find me all the dupes, remove all my dupes, never have dupes again, and I'll be really happy. That's my main thing.
That's another one of our like core theories is that, I think we're the first company that's building a platform on top of data. And if you own the data layer, it's like you shouldn't have dupes. That should be done at the data layer versus I think, again, the traditional is you suck data in from Marketo and then you've got leads that come in. You might have stuff syncing over from a different data source. And that's just, I still remember the days of like Cloud Dingo so long ago and like how far, dupe issues have been around since the dawn of time. And it's so painful for the teams, like with the accounts and the content. It's just I think, again, it's back to when you run the developmental teams, like the SDRs or even AEs, you actually understand why dupes are so painful. I think, in the RevOps world, it can be like an intellectual exercise. Oh, our dupe rate's 10%. How do we get it to 3? But it's like, do you understand what 10% feels like to a person that 1 out of every 10 dials is the same person that they talk to and how painful that is?
Yeah.
I really like what you said very early, when we were talking earlier about, you tend to be quieter on LinkedIn and things like that. And you're more focused on the work in front of you. I'm very similar personality type wise. And I think it's a very common trait I see with a lot of RevOps professionals I work with and have worked with in the past. But there's so many like articles and things on cold calling's dead. And, you shouldn't do cold calling. I see the same numbers you do. And I've always seen that in my career, which is how do you get a great list and make great make high quality dials. Don't just go to the lowest cost labor you can and expect a great return. It's sort of a weird approach that I think a lot of companies do sometimes take, and it can work for some business models, others don't. But there's so much noise about cold calling's dead, and it's just remarkable to see that you all have 33% of your traffic and business coming through that channel. And I think you're also hitting on it was not easy for you to get there, and it was a work effort. But how do you think about the future of cold calling in the age of AI? Like what's just your general perspective on that?
I know, I'm so interested in it because like I asked people the other day about like, would you answer a cold call? Like I grew up ringing my friends on the house phone, and like I was getting in trouble by my parents, like, for being on the phone so much. So I just find it very interesting because I'm like, millennials are coming into decision-making power. Like I'm a millennial. I'm like, how do I like to be communicated with? And like, personally, I would answer the phone. And like, I know some of my other friends who are like directors and maybe a little bit older than me, they would answer the phone. And I know people are talking about like calls getting screened now with like the iOS update and stuff like that. But like, I think it's kind of cool because it's kind of, you're like, they're going to like someone nearly get a text message from you. If you have a good reason you're reaching out and it's like a thoughtful message and it's being kind of pre-written to you by this, it's like another kind of form of communication. That's kind of my thought process. I find it kind of weird that everyone's like, cold calling's dead. I was like, because I'm the personality that would answer the phone. Our LinkedIn strategy is very different to our cold calling strategy, and it's different to our email strategy. We find that a lot of our EMEA contacts are way more responding on LinkedIn than the US. And it's just trying to like figure out like how your channel works and then really where do you get the most wins and just double down on that. For us right now, our cold calling is very much based on like warm, like outbound, and using a lot of AI to do the research, the manual grunt work, so they can make more calls. And my BDRs, who, to be honest, my BDR team is there's some people who are like really extroverted. But I have some BDRs who are more introverted, and they're really good at like the tech stack, and they're so good at like the unbelievable attention to detail. Like they point out all my mistakes because I'm just like, I'm more showman, right? But the really thoughtful research gives them that confidence if they weren't like naturally confident because they're just more like verbal, to be like, when I get someone on the phone, I have something to talk about. I'm educated, I know what to say, and that there's nearly this kind of mindset that once someone picks up, I'm making that a meeting. And we've seen a massive conversion rate from like when we get a conversation to booking a meeting, it's like nearly like 20%. And it's just getting the right material in front of you so that you can be as confident as possible to that person on the phone.
I think there's so much you're hitting on. It's not just like, I really like where you're going. You're pushing a lot into augmentation, which is how to use AI to augment, but you're also really hitting on the human elements that I think matter, like the confidence, like I'm going to get this meeting, I'm going to do it. I think just even the word choices, I can tell why the program's successful. It's like really cool to see. Yeah. Last question for you, more of like a, I need maybe multilingual support. I need help doing something with my product. I've got this complex product experience, it's global.
So basically Smartling came to market like technology first. A lot of agencies, very manual work, a lot of back and forth of like sending content in Google Sheets to get translated and sending it all back. We integrate wherever your content lives. We can translate on the fly. Like it's taking in your tone, your brand, all of that into so that your person that's on the website is having as much of a personalized experience in their native language. And what we find is like people are more likely to buy by like 70% if the content is in their language. So there's just, for me, like now living in America, so many people speak Spanish. It is so important, and so many other languages, but like it's so important that like all that access, all of those communities are given the same privilege that someone who's speaking like English, they want to be communicated with too. And you're missing out on so much global revenue by not translating. And with Smartling, we're using AI, we're using your content. We also have like a human in the loop to guarantee quality so that you can translate so much faster. When I was a BDR, I'd book a meeting for someone. It was such a high cost to even enter a global market to try and even get global revenue. By leveraging AI in your translation workflows, that cost is like coming down. Okay, great. But like it's what the AI is also able to do is like speed up the process. You're able to translate so much more. You're able to translate into so many more languages with Smartling. I feel like your business could be unstoppable if you were able to actually contact everyone the way they wanted to be contacted.
Love it. Thanks so much, Grace. I don't know about you all, but I could have talked to Grace for at least 2 more hours. If her take on cold calling or unique sales ops plus sales development resonated with you, you can connect with her on LinkedIn or check out smartling.com. Otherwise, hit subscribe to catch future episodes of Rewiring Growth with go-to-market leaders. And let me know in the comments what resonated most with you. You can always find us at apollo.io. Thanks for joining.